Firstly, make it a habit to always go through the background of the poet or the author so that you sort of know that the poet or the author belongs to which country or which culture. Okay. So about the poet, Rabindranath Tagore, 1861 to 1941. So basically he belongs to the second half of 19th century and first half of 20th century. Rashi, read the first paragraph loudly.
Rabindranath Tagore was
Renowned means famous. Hold a pencil in your hand. Pencil, pen, whatever you have.
Indian poet, short story writer, song composer, playwright, and painter who introduced new prose and verse forms and the use of colloquial language into Bengali literature, thereby freeing it from traditional models based on classical Sanskrit.
Okay. So, what is the meaning of verse? Ashmit, verse. Verse means poetry. Prose and verse. Okay, prose means story. Verse means poem or poetry, means lyrical form. So underline the word verse and write poetry or lyrical. Like poetry form or lyrical form. Lyrical. Jagriti, turn to page number 5 of Rhapsody, poetry book. So Tagore introduced prose form and new lyrical form and the use of colloquial language. Colloquial. Namrata, meaning of colloquial, any idea? Colloquial language means everyday language. जैसे हम लोग जिस भाषा में बात कर रहे हैं वो colloquial language है. समझ गए? अगर तुम्हें कोई बीमारी हो जाए और डॉक्टर बोले कि तुम्हें हाइपोथर्मोग्लाइसेमिया हुआ है, तो वो colloquial language नहीं है, वो jargonic language है, medical term. अगर वो तुमको सिंपल भाषा में बोले कि तुम्हें बुखार हुआ है, जो सब कोई समझे, वो है colloquial language. So underline colloquial language and write everyday simple language. Everyday simple language. We are in page number 5 of Rhapsody, poetry book. Page number 5. So Tagore basically introduced everyday language or simple language. तुम अगर उसका poem पढ़ोगे, you will be able to understand the poem relatively. It is relatively in a simple language. This was not the case earlier. Now, as you know that earlier, Indian literature was largely Sanskrit literature. Okay. So all those Indian plays and Indian epics have been written in Sanskrit. Okay. Like Shakuntala, a famous Indian play written by Kalidasa. Then you have other plays, other stories, other epics, Ramayana, Mahabharata. Most of them are written in Sanskrit. So they are not easy to understand by the common people. Next paragraph, Rashi, continue. Second para, page number 5.
He was highly influential in introducing Indian culture to the West and vice versa, and he is generally regarded as the outstanding creative artist of early 20th century India. In 1914, he became the first non-European to receive the Nobel Prize for Literature for his collection of poems titled
Gitanjali. So basically, he was highly influential in introducing Indian culture to the West and Western culture in India. He bridged that gap because his poems and his stories were read in the West. And he introduced Western literature to his Indian scholars and students. He is regarded as the outstanding creative artist of early 20th century India. In 1913, now please remember this, ये MCQ में भी आ सकता है, that when did he receive the Nobel Prize? So Rabindranath Tagore became the first non-European to receive the Nobel Prize for Literature for his collection of poems, which was called Gitanjali. So Gitanjali is a collection of his poems which talk about life, about tragedy, about humans in general, and it received worldwide acclaim. Okay. Next paragraph. Quickly you read it. Okay. Next paragraph. Yes. Although Tagore
wrote successfully in all literary genres.
अच्छा, it is pronounced as genres. या genres. Genres भी बोल सकते हो.
Was first of all a poet. Among his 50 and odd volumes of poetry are
Manasi
or the Ideal One, Sonatali or the
Golden
Golden Bull.
You know, understand Bengali? Some of you who is Bengali here? Anybody Bengali? सोनार मतलब सोने का और तरी मतलब बोट, तो सोनार तरी, गोल्डन बोट.
कथा ओ कहानी, गीतांजलि और सॉन्ग
ऑफ रेंस, गीति माल्या, अरे गीति माला है, गीति माला. तो रीत बोलना जो फ्लावर चढ़ाते हैं बुके गोल सा, वो रीत है. तो गीत मतलब क्या होता है? गीत मतलब क्या होता है? सॉन्ग. तो गीत माला या गीति माला, बंगाली लोग गीति बोलते हैं, गीति माला. तो wreath of songs. Wreath means flower, that bouquet of songs. And
palaka or the flight of cranes.
Crane एक bird है, उसका उड़ान. Palaka or the flight of cranes.
The English
renderings means translation. ठीक है, इसका मतलब है translation. Office poetry
includes the gardener, fruit gathering,
and the fugitive. नहीं, इसका मतलब ट्रांसलेशन नहीं है यहाँ पे. इसका मतलब है कि उन्होंने खुद इंग्लिश में लिखा है. So some of his English poetry collections are Gardener, Fruit Gathering, Fugitive.
In this volume of verse, he experimented with many poetic forms and techniques: lyrics, sonnets, ode, dramatic monologue, dialogue poems, long narrative, and descriptive works, and prose poems.
Now, as we discuss poetry in greater depth over the next few months, you will come across various forms of poetry, which you must already be aware of. One form of poetry is a sonnet poem. Sonnet. What is a sonnet? Sonnet नहीं सुने क्लास 7-8 में पढ़े नहीं थे? राशि sonnet का मतलब बताओ. Sonnet नम्रता. Sonnet poem. Sonnet is a 14-line. How many? 1-4. Sonnet is a 14-line poem, and it is usually written by a male poet talking about a woman he admires. Okay, so sonnet is a 14-line poem. उसका 14 lines ही होगा, वो स्ट्रक्चर है उसका. जैसे दोहे, कबीर के दोहे. दोहे का नाम दोहा क्यों है? क्योंकि ये 2 लाइन का है. तो इंग्लिश में बोलते हैं कपलेट, क्योंकि कपल का मतलब क्या होता है? 2. तो दोहा या कपलेट 2 ही लाइन का होगा, वो 3 लाइन का हो ही नहीं सकता. वैसे sonnet is a 14-line poem, and by tradition sonnets are usually painful poems written by a lover, a male lover, sometimes a female lover, in the memory of or in the pain of a person he or she admires but cannot get. One-sided love. ठीक है. तो पहले के जमाने में क्या ना, कई बार एक मेल पोएट, तो मेल पोएट से आवारा होते थे. वो लोग घूमते घूमते वो लोगों को प्यार हो जाता था किसी राजकुमारी से. ठीक है. हाँ, ऐसा बहुत सारे पोएम्स है. किसी माने एक नोबल वुमेन से, a woman of a noble class, sometimes a married woman, sometimes the queen. अब वो कुछ कर तो सकता नहीं है. ठीक है. तो चुपचाप he would write poems in memory of that person. So that they are popular sonnets. इसके अलावा ओड है. ओड नॉर्मली रॉबर्ट फ्रॉस्ट ने काफी सारे ओड लिखे हैं. ओड टू दिस, ओड टू ऑटम, बहुत फेमस पोएम है. ओड टू द वेस्ट, जॉन कीट्स ने लिखा है काफी सारा. ओड टू द वेस्ट विंड, जॉन कीट्स का सारा ओड्स है. ओड मतलब ट्रिब्यूट. अगर मुझे नाइटेंगल बड़ा पसंद है, नाइटेंगल, और मैं उसके बारे में एक ट्रिब्यूट लिखना चाहता हूँ, तो द नेम ऑफ द पोएम विल बी ओड टू द नाइटेंगल. ये एक पोएम है, गूगल करना ओड टू द नाइटेंगल, ये पोएम आ जाएगा बाय जॉन कीट्स. ठीक है. तो odes are normally written as a positive tribute to something. Then there are other forms of poems. Some poems are dialogue poems, जहाँ पे dialogues में conversation, एक person कुछ बोल रहा है, दूसरा उसका reply कर रहा है. Some poems are dramatic monologue, तो ड्रामेटिक मोनोलॉग का एग्जांपल द पेट्रियट, क्लास 10 में था जो, एवरीबॉडी फ्रॉम आईसीएसई क्लास 10 में पोएम था द पेट्रियट, द पर्सन इज गोइंग एंड गोइंग टू गेट एग्जीक्यूटेड, याद है? भूल गए? तो वो ड्रामेटिक मोनोलॉग था. ड्रामेटिक मोनोलॉग इज अ पोएम in which only one person is talking, okay, to the readers and to the not to a particular person. वो सबको बोल रहा है. Anyway, now look at the last para. Abhisara, translated as, ये अभिशारा बंगाली वर्ड है, इसका इंग्लिश वर्ड है the tryst, मतलब sort of destiny, was written in Bengali by Rabindranath Tagore in 1899 and appeared in a collection of poems called Katha O Kahini, which was inspired by Rajendra Lal Mitra's masterpiece Sanskrit Buddhist Literature of Nepal. The poems in this collection are from tales of Buddhist, Sikh, Rajasthan, Marathi or other non-Bengali literary traditions. Next page. Page number 6. Tagore translated this poem into English for a collection of 86 translated poems called Fruit Gathering, brought out in 1916 by Macmillan. Okay, so one important. Next para, very important. This is a story poem. Means a poem that tells a story. This is a story poem based on Upagupta, a Buddhist monk. तो इस स्टोरी का जो मेन कैरेक्टर है that is Upagupta, who is a Buddhist monk who lived in the 300 BCE. See, BCE का full form है before the common era. BC का full form है before Christ. कुछ कंट्रीज में the term used is BC और कुछ कंट्रीज में BCE. BC का फुल फॉर्म है बिफोर क्राइस्ट, लेकिन BCE का फुल फॉर्म है बिफोर द कॉमन एरा. इसका फुल फॉर्म लिख लो, ये तुम्हारे जनरल नॉलेज के लिए है. अगर फ्यूचर में तुम कभी कोई कॉम्पिटिटिव एग्जाम दो तो उसमें ये सब क्वेश्चंस पूछ सकता है. और इफ यू गो टू एनी क्विज कॉन्टेस्ट लाइक कौन बनेगा करोड़पति, तो तुम्हें ये सब आना चाहिए. ठीक है, बिफोर द कॉमन एरा, बेसिकली 300 BC, and was revered. Revered means worshipped or respected. Worshipped or respected. So this monk Upagupta was even worshipped by, have you heard of Emperor Ashoka? Maurya dynasty, Ashoka. It demonstrates the values of love and compassion. Compassion means compassion. Jagrati, meaning of compassion. 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 Compassion means kindness. लगाव नहीं, kindness. Like दया, pity. इसका मतलब लिखो kindness और pity. Kindness और pity. PIT by pity. दूसरों के प्रति एक अच्छा भावना रखना. So this poem demonstrates the values of love and compassion that may be found in unexpected persons under unusual circumstances. Okay. So now come to the poem, page number 7. At the top of the poem, एकदम ऊपर एक स्पेस दिख रहा है, वहां पे लिखो उपगुप्ता, UPA GUPTA, उपगुप्ता equal to का साइन दो, the ascetic ASCETIC, below that right, Vasav Datta, VA, you will find the spelling in the last line of the poem. इस poem के last line में जाओ, page number 8, वहां देखो there is a word called Vasav Datta. Can you see in the last line? Okay, so write VASAVDATTA, Vasav Datta equal to the dancing girl. Vasavdatta is the dancing girl. So this story revolves around two characters. One is Upagupta. So Upagupta is the Buddhist monk. Okay, जिसके बारे में हमने पढ़ा, who was even worshipped by Emperor Ashoka. So he is the ascetic. Ascetic मतलब monk. Ascetic का actual मतलब क्या है? अगर मैं कहूं कि for the next 1 month I will lead an ascetic life. Ascetic means one who abstains from, one who stays away from every form of indulgence. हर वो चीज जिसमें प्लेजर मिलता है, अगर मैं उससे दूर रहूं तो आई विल कॉल माई सेल्फ एन एसेटिक. मतलब किसी भी तरह का चीज, जैसे मदिरा, वाइन, लोग वाइन क्यों पीते हैं? प्लेजर के लिए. या कोई स्वादिष्ट खाना, ज्यादा खाना, उससे दूर रहना. फिजिकल प्लेजर से दूर रहना, औरत से दूर रहना, या फिर टीवी से, या मतलब किसी भी तरह का लग्जरी से दूर रहना, एसी वेसी, वो एसेटिक लाइफ है. तो मॉन्क नॉर्मली, अगर तुम मॉन्क के बारे में टीवी में देख लो, तो मॉन्क्स लीड अ वेरी वेरी सिंपल लाइफ. दे ईट सिंपल, कम खाना, और वही खाना जितना इंपॉर्टेंट है, सिंपल राइस और सिंपल व्हीट. दे डू नॉट ईट लाइक यू कि बर्फी अर्फी ऐसे खा रहे हैं, लड्डू वड्डू, ठीक है. दे डू नॉट इंडल्ज इन एनी फॉर्म ऑफ इंडल्जेंस. उनका लाइफ बहुत लग्जरियस नहीं होता है. दे स्लीप ऑन आइदर फ्लोर मैट्स या फिर ऑन द फ्लोर. They wear an orange saffron or white saffron dress. उनका वो luxurious garments नहीं पहनते हैं वो लोग. Okay, they keep their head shaved. So they basically eliminate every form of comfort, glamour or luxury from their life. उसको बोलते हैं ascetic or a monk. So this poem is about Upagupta and Vasavdatta. Now we will read the poem stanza by stanza. So we come to the first stanza. In poetry, we do not call it paragraph. We don't say first paragraph, second paragraph. That we say in prose. In poetry, we say first stanza, second stanza, third stanza, and so on. Now look at the first stanza. Ashmit, read the first stanza loudly.
Upagupta, disciple of Buddha, lay asleep in the dust of the city of walls of Mathura.
Dust by the city.
Lamps were all out, doors were all shut, and stars were all hidden by the murky sky of August, whose feet were those twinkling with anklets, touching his breast of a sudden. He woke up, startled, and the light from a woman's lamp fell upon his forgiving eyes.
Okay, now look at the stanza again. Upagupta. So who was Upagupta? The disciple of Buddha. गौतम बुद्धा का डिसाइपल था, वो शिष्य था, and he was himself a monk. So one day he was sleeping. He lay asleep in the dust, means on the dusty road. ठीक है, सड़क पे वो सोया हुआ था. He lay asleep in the dust by the city wall of Mathura. So because he was an ascetic, he did not have a proper home. He was lying on the dusty road beside the city wall of Mathura. Have you heard of Mathura? Mathura city. Lamps were all out. What is a lamp? Lantern. This story, remember, this poem is set in 300 BCE or BC. Those समय you did not have electric lights. You did not have tube lights or bulbs. घर में मोमबत्ती और lantern वही होते थे. So lamps were all out, which means all the household or householders had extinguished their lamp or lantern or candles. Doors were all shut. So at that time, we did not have fancy buildings. There were huts and cottages. And people had normal wooden doors or stone doors. They were all shut. And stars were all hidden by the murky sky of August. Underline the word murky with a pencil preferably. और पास में जहां जगह है वहां लिखो dark and gloomy. Dark and gloomy. Okay. So first of all, the story is set in India. in Mathura. The month is the month of August. Now, August is usually a cloudy month, rainy month. It is the monsoon season. So, are the stars visible, Namrata? The stars are obscured or covered or hidden by the sky, which is dark and gloomy, which means pretty cloudy. It is not bright. Or a raat ka time. Then, now suddenly a woman arrives, whose feet were those tinkling. Tinkling means ringing, sound with anklets. You know what's anklet? घुंघरू या पायल जो एंकल पे पहनते हैं, जो चीज एंकल पे पहना जाता है वो एंकलेट है, घुंघरू या पायल. So whose feet were those tinkling with anklets, touching his breast of a sudden? Of a sudden means all of a sudden. So all of a sudden, now where is he lying? On the ground, on the floor. So suddenly a woman arrives, and the feet of the woman touches his breast or chest. Okay? And the sound of pile or anklet hits his ears. So he's thinking that whose feet has touched my breast and who is wearing these anklets. So he woke up, startled. Startled matlab chौंकते हुए उठा वो, amazed. And the light from a woman's lamp. So the woman was holding a lamp. So the light from a woman's lamp fell on his eyes, on his forgiving eyes. Underline the word forgiving and write merciful. MERCIFUL. His eyes are forgiving eyes. Now, why do you think his eyes are forgiving eyes? He's a monk. He's a monk. He's an ascetic. He has trained himself to always show mercy and kindness to others. So those people who are ascetic or monk-like, even if you cause them injury, they will not retaliate. They will forgive you. Have you heard of Jesus Christ? So if you have read his story, you know he was crucified, which means those who hated him, they nailed him to a cross. Okay? मतलब उसके हाथ पैर वो लोग ऐसे करके nail ठोक दिए. They hammered a nail, and he bled to death. But even that time, his last words were that, "Oh God, please forgive them, because they do not know what they are doing. They are killing me out of ignorance." Okay, so he was forgiving. Similarly, here, when he opened his eyes, the moment he opened his eyes, he forgave the woman. कि तुमने मुझे डिस्टर्ब किया, मुझे जगा दिया, but मैं तुम्हें already इसके लिए forgive करता हूँ. So the moment he opened his eyes were not angry eyes. तुम सोचो अगर तुम सो रहे हो और तुम्हारा भाई अगर तुम्हारा पानी गिरा देता है, ये लाइट मारता है, तो तुम उठोगे with an irritation, है like this, which means your eyes are angry eyes. The moment they open, they are the eyes of irritation or anger. Okay, but here when he opened his eyes, even though he was disturbed, his eyes were not angry eyes, they were forgiving eyes. They were soft and calm eyes. Clear? Next stanza. Namrata, read the next stanza loudly. It was Vasava Datta. Starred with jewels. Of her youth. Lowered her lamp. It's about lowered her lamp. Young ascetic. Answered. Okay. Now look at the stanza again. It was Vasava Datta or Vasav Datta, which means the girl was Vasavdatta, the dancing girl. So she was the dancing girl of that locality, of that village. So she's a dancing girl, means she has a public reputation of a girl who dances and tempts men, maybe for money. Starred with jewels, which means she is covered with jewels. वो dancer है ना, so she is wearing jewels of different kinds, necklace, different types of jewels all over her body. Glamorous, clouded with a pale blue mantle. Underline the word mantle and write a cloak or a shawl. A cloak, C-L-O-A-K, a cloak or a shawl, S-H-A-W-L. So this woman, Vasavadatta, was covered with jewels and she was wearing a cloak or a shawl of blue color. Drunk with the wine of her youth. ये figurative language है. इसका मतलब है उसकी जवानी चरम सीमा पे थी. She was drunk with the wine of her youth. She was a youthful woman, full of beauty. Okay? She was a youthful woman, full of beauty and youth. She lowered her lamp and saw the young face of Upagupta. So Upagupta was a young monk, austerely beautiful. Underline austerely and write purely, P-U-R-E-L-Y, purely, and morally, M-O-R-A-L-L-Y. Now the face of purely and morally. So the face of the monk Upagupta was beautiful and pure, moral. समझ तो moral face मतलब ये एक संत का फेस था, the face of a monk. जिसे moral face या austere face वो face है जो एक गंभीर face है, जिसे तुम easily distract नहीं कर सकते, बहका नहीं सकते, समझे? वो easily बहकेगा नहीं, वो face powerful है. अगर वो कोई चीज उसके फेस में डिटर्मिनेशन है, समझे? वो इजीली बहकेगा नहीं. Forgive me, young ascetic, said the woman. So the woman begged forgiveness because obviously she had disturbed the man. And then the woman invites the man to her house. This woman, Namrata, what is the name of the woman? So Vasavadatta invites him to her house that why are you lying on the ground? You please come to my house and sleep there. So the woman says, graciously come to my house. The dusty earth, this dusty road, earth means earth, zameen, is not a fit bed for you. It is not a fit means suitable. It is not a suitable bed for you. ये आपके लिए fit नहीं है. You are such a renowned monk. But the young ascetic answered, woman, you go on your way. Today I will not come. When the time is right, I will come to you. Okay. So the ascetic said, today it is not the right time for me to go to your house. But I will come one day. I will come on that day when the time is right. When the time is right means appropriate. Okay, when the time is right, सही time पे मैं आऊँगा. आज का time सही नहीं. Clear? Please याद रखना ये for the next 5 minutes. So the monk makes a promise that I will come, but not today. I will come when the time is right. Okay. Next stanza. Shreyansh read. Suddenly,
the black night
showed its teeth.
Flash of lightning, the storm growled from the corner of the sky, and the woman trembled in fear.
Bas, रुको. Suddenly the black night showed its teeth. Like how? in a flash of lightning. There was a lightning, thunder and lightning, bijli. So here, night has been presented as a scary monster. Okay, and normally because a thunderous night is quite scary. So underline this, black night showed its teeth. What is the figure of speech here? Personification. So underline this and write personification. PERSONIFICATION. Is this clear? Why is it personification? क्योंकि नाइट का तो टीच नहीं होता है. अगर मैं बोलूं रात चिल्ला रहा है, रात दांत दिखा रहा है, तो रात के तो दांत नहीं होते, ये personification है. Night or black night has been presented as a monster having hands and legs and mouth and teeth. Okay, that is called personification. The storm growled. So a storm began to blow. Storm growled from the corner of the sky, and the woman trembled in fear. Which woman? Vasavadatta, the dancing girl. So this line also tells us that when there was this turbulence, the lightning and the storm, it is the woman who got fearful, not the monk. Understood? यहाँ पे क्या लिखा है? The woman trembled in fear. यहाँ ये तो नहीं लिखा है both of them trembled in fear. So only the woman trembled in fear, which tells us that she is an ordinary woman. But the monk is beyond all these things. Please remember, we fear because we have something to lose. Right? अगर कोई earthquake आएगा, you will fear because you have a house to lose. You have family to lose. But monks have nothing to lose. No house, no family, no wealth. That is why they are the most fearless people in the world. Understood? Monks are very calm. They are the epitome of calmness. That is why a true monk is a monk जो कभी गुस्सा ही नहीं करेगा. And they will hardly react. तुम उसके सामने नाचो गिड़गिड़ाओ, they will wear a very calm expression all the time. No reaction. Okay. Monk-like face. Monk-like face. Neither showing anger. अगर anger आ भी रहा तो neither showing it. Neither showing anger, nor showing disappointment, nor showing frustration, nor showing greed, or not even going through it. So obviously the woman trembled in fear and she went away. And the man, the monk, continued to lie there under the stormy sky. Okay? Shreyansh, continue. A year had not yet passed.
A year had not yet passed. It was evening of the day in April in the spring. The branches of the wayside trees were full of blossom.
Okay, wait. Now we turn to the second part of the poem. So 1 year passed, nearly. A year had not yet passed, means abhi 1 year complete nahi hua tha. But let us say 10 months, 11 months. So nearly a year had passed. I mean, the story began in August. So now we turn to April of the next year. So approximately 9 months, 10 months. So it was the evening of a day in April in the spring. Now, April is the spring season. And now we consider it, abhi to garmi itna zyada aa gaya, so April is summer. But in those days, April was still spring. The branches of the wayside trees, wayside underline and write roadside. ROADSID. Okay, wayside means roadside. So wayside trees का मतलब है वो trees जो road में grow रहे हैं, roadside trees. Okay. So the branches of the wayside trees or roadside trees were full of blossom. Jagriti, what is the meaning of blossom? Blossom? Flowers. Oh, flowers. The trees were full of flowers. So underline blossom and write flowers. So it was springtime. In springtime, normally new flowers emerge, new flowers come out, and they cover the trees. Continue, Shransh. Next line.
Gay notes of a flute came floating in the warm spring air from afar. The citizens had gone to the woods for the festival of flowers.
Okay. Gay notes. Underline gay and write pleasant and cheerful. Pleasant, pleasant and cheerful. Cherful. Pleasant and cheerful. Note means obviously sound of a flute. You know flute? Basuri. Came floating in the warm spring air from afar. दूर में कोई बजा रहा है? The sound is coming. The citizens of Mathura had gone to the woods, to the jungle, forest, for the festival of flowers. क्योंकि spring season है, तो there was a festival कि वो लोग जंगल में जाके flowers collect करने गए हैं या कुछ celebrate करने गए हैं. Next stanza. You read again.
Sky gives the full look on the shadow of the silent town. We are
Ascetic.
was walking in the lonely street, while overhead the lovesick
Quails.
uttered
Quail. Hindi. Bird है ना quail. Quails.
uttered from the mango branches their sleepless plaint. Upagupta passed through the city gates and stood at the base of the rampart.
Okay. So from the mid sky, means from the middle of the sky, the full moon was gazing down. You know, gazed का मतलब looked. Gazed means looked. So the full moon looked down. Again, this is also personification. The full moon was looking down on the shadows of the silent town. The young ascetic, referring to Upagupta, he was walking in the lonely street, while overhead, means at the top, ऊपर में, the love-sick quails. Spring season है. In spring season, the birds look for other birds. So the love-sick quails uttered from the mango branches. Quails are usually found on the branches of mango trees. So from the mango branches, they were constantly doing koo, 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 koo. So they were uttering their sleepless plaint. Sleepless means throughout the night they will go on. Plaint here means song, song of love and pain. Plaint matlab likho song of love and pain. Okay. So these birds, they were basically singing from the mango branches. Upagupta passed through the city gates. So he passed through the city gates of Mathura and he stood at the base of the rampart. Rampart underline and write. Meaning of rampart, defensive wall of a city. Defensive, D-E-F-E-N-S-I-V-E, defensive wall, W-A-L-L, defensive wall of a city. तो पहले के जमाने में city was guarded by a long wall, okay? Which was at the entrance of the city. So Upagupta came and stood there. Next stanza, Rashi read.
What women lay at his feet in the shadow of the mango grove, struck with a black
Pestilence.
her body spotted with sores of smallpox. She had been hurriedly driven away from the town to avoid her poisonous contagion.
Okay. What woman lay at his feet? अब उसके बीच में कोई लेटा हुआ है. Okay. A woman lay at his feet in the shadow of the mango grove. So grove means trees, a bunch of trees. So in the shadow of the mango trees, suddenly his feet hit a woman. Now this woman was struck with the black pestilence. Underline the word pestilence and write a fatal, F-A-T-A-L, a fatal epidemic disease, a fatal epidemic, E-P-I-D-E-M-I-C, a fatal epidemic disease, D-I-S-E-A-S-E. So this woman had been struck by a fatal disease. इसे pox हो गया था, smallpox. Her body was spotted with sores of smallpox. Now in those days, smallpox जिसको हो जाता उसका कोई इलाज नहीं था. The person would suffer a lot, would often die, and to avoid contamination, the person would be isolated. Okay, so she had been hurriedly driven away from the town. उसे टाउन से बाहर निकाल दिया गया था ताकि और किसी को ना हो जाए. To avoid her poisonous contagion, underline contagion and write contamination, C-O-N-T-A-M-I-N-A-T-I-O-N. Is this clear? Contamination. You know what is pox, chicken pox, smallpox? अगर किसी एक होगा दूसरे को भी हो जाएगा. छुआछूत की बीमारी. So now look at the condition. The woman is now in a miserable condition. She is nearly half dead. She is suffering from a major disease, and she has nobody to look after her. She has been driven out of her house, out of her town. Last stanza. The ascetic sat by her side. Now the ascetic sat down by her side, took her head on his knees. He took her head and kept his on his knees. And he gave her water. He moistened her lips with water. उसे पानी पिलाया. And smeared her body with balm. So he put balm on her body to bring her relief. Who are you, merciful one? Asked the woman. The woman asked him that, who are you? And he replied, the time at last has come to visit you. And I am here, Vasavdatta, replied the young ascetic. The young ascetic replied, I had told you I would come one day when the time is right. And today the time is right. Today you need me. And so today I have come to help you to recover. Clear? Now look at the conditions here. In the first part of the poem, the woman is young, beautiful, full of youth, full of charm, full of power. What power? She has the power to attract any man. Okay? All the men in the village would dance around her, would give her anything. But in the second part, which is just a few months later, she is no longer beautiful. Her body is covered with poxes. She is ugly. She is no longer desirable. She has been driven away by the same villagers, by the same men. She is ugly, she is lonely, she is miserable. She is no longer beautiful, no longer powerful, no longer healthy. Okay? But the season has changed. At that time, when she was beautiful, in the first scene, the night was scary and dark. Okay, it was scary, dark, and thunderous. But now, she is ugly, she is unhealthy, but it is spring, the flowers are blossoming, people are out in the woods. So the world is celebrating, but she is dying. So at this time, when everyone has deserted her, everyone has left her, it is the monk, the ascetic, Upagupta, who has come to her rescue. Okay? I told you at the beginning of the poem that this poem is about compassion. I told you the meaning of compassion as kindness or pity, which means showing love and kindness to your fellow beings. Fellow beings can be a fellow human or a dog or a cat, to show compassion. So here, at a time when everybody in the world had deserted the woman, okay, men did not care for her anymore. The villagers did not care for her anymore. They in fact drove her out of the village to avoid contamination. Now she has nobody to look after her, nobody to even make her drink water. At this time, the monk has come to help her. Okay, or us waqt, when the monk did not need her, at that time when the woman did not need the monk said, I will not come to your house today. I will come to your house, or I will come to you when you need me. Is this clear? So this poem basically is a poem of morality, and it is a poem of compassion and kindness. Is this clear? Understood fully? Any query? You will write a short summary of this poem and show it to me on Tuesday. Our next class is on Tuesday, 8:30. Okay? You will write a short summary of this poem in your own words. Is this clear? And show it to me on Tuesday.